Welcome to Ottawa Business Matters. I'm Sam LaPrade. We're here to inform, inspire, and influence. And of course, the Ottawa Board of Trade, the President and CEO, Sueling Ching, joins us here every week. And she's here again. Hello.
Hi, Sam.
I feel like I just spent so much time with you because, of course, the big breakfast, the mayor's breakfast, was a very big deal last week.
Well, I'm happy to spend lots of time with you. And yes, we were so pleased to be able to co-host the mayor's breakfast, of course, with the mayor's office and the Ottawa Business Journal, and to host as our keynote speaker, Premier Doug Ford.
Now, there's not many reasons I get out of bed at 5 o'clock in the morning, but I do for the mayor's breakfast. This one, there was a lot of people that were up bright and early that morning. And I was commenting a little bit earlier that we arrived and it was dark, and then the sun was rising, and there was good news, really good news. Tell us what happened.
So, well, it was a popular event, so we had to move it from City Hall to the Shaw Centre. And so over 600 business and community leaders came out to see the Premier and you and I and the Mayor. But we were really pleased because the Premier did bring good news of a new deal for Ottawa. So the Queen's Park has, and the Government of Ontario has committed over $543 million in both operating and capital costs to support Ottawa's development as an economic hub in Ontario, in Eastern Ontario. And so we're really looking forward to unpacking what all of that means, but we know it's an investment in transportation and highways, an investment in economic development and the revitalization of downtown, as well as safety and security. So.
It was good news for business, and I love that it was announced in front of the business community, and I loved that, you know, out of the 600 people that were there were so many business leaders, there was nonprofit leaders, it was this beautiful mix. But why was it so good for business that morning?
Well, I think that, first of all, I want to compliment and thank the Mayor and the Premier for using our event to make this announcement. And I think what's important is that aside from, of course, the direct impact it will have on our tax base, on our ability to grow the economy, to shape the city into a place where we can attract investment and talent and students and visitors. So aside from all of that, I think it was a very clear demonstration of Queen's Park's commitment and acknowledgement of the importance of the Ottawa economy. Ottawa is unique, and I know I've said this many times, but you know, all Canadian cities were impacted over the course of the pandemic, but none more so than Ottawa, because we have such a big public sector presence here, which has always been a strength of ours and continues to be a strength of ours. But in this new hybrid world, we need to be thoughtful about how we're going to transform our city so that we are taking advantage of all the opportunities before us, but also making time for the transformation and the challenges that we are facing. So we are a geographically diverse community. We have this huge public sector. We have all kinds of amenities that we can capitalize on, all kinds of talent that comes into the nation's capital. And so I think this new investment from the Ontario government will give us a little more breathing room in moving that forward.
And I can't help but notice the relationship between Mayor Mark Sutcliffe and the Premier, very friendly. They told some funny stories about working together, and you could really see that there's respect there, that they do have each other, you know, on speed dial, if you will, for things that are happening in the city. That was a really nice part of the day that I think maybe people were surprised about.
So over and above the news itself, I would say we all had a lot of fun at that event as well. And we, you know, we were very impressed too with the relationship that they're both kind of, you know, they both have a great sense of humor. They're both warm people. And, you know, this deal didn't just come together overnight, right? This has been a lot of work on the part of the city and the mayor. And so we appreciate that leadership. And the mayor has said it in his comments, and we concur at the Board of Trade, as we did during the election, is that we were looking for leaders that were willing to be reasonable, to work together, to be collaborative, to be forward thinking. And I think that Thursday morning was a demonstration of that for sure.
There was lots talked about that day. One thing that really stuck with me is how Premier Doug Ford mentioned Cameron Love, of course, the head of the Ottawa Hospital, undertaking this new campus on Carling Avenue. And he really talked about how important that hospital is and the commitment of the Ford government to that hospital. But I loved that he knew that that would be important to business leaders. Business leaders want to attract talent to this city for the, we talk about it all the time, work, play, and live, that this city's going to have that kind of healthcare infrastructure that we require.
Yes, and so, it was great to have Cam there that day, and I think we're going to bring him on the show to talk more about what's going on at the hospital, and he's also agreed to be at our City Building Summit, which is coming up on April 23rd. And I think that's just one example of the innovation that we see in Ottawa and how the hospital will be a world-class health care and research facility. And that it's understood because we have executives like Cameron who are also working closely every day with decision makers at every level of government to make sure that we have the attention that we need and that we deserve here in Ottawa as an economic driver.
Yeah, it was a really, really important day. Was there anybody that you sort of think about when this announcement was made that was really going to be benefiting from this? I mean, we hear about, obviously the transportation piece, and we heard about a little bit about Invest Ottawa. Is there anybody that you think really that's a good day for them?
Well, what I said, Sam, after is that it was a good day for Ottawa. So if there's one thing we know is that the business community is connected to the community at large, is connected to our young people. Every sector impacts, each other. Every size of business impacts each other. So it was a great day for Ottawa. And, it was great having the Premier there, but we also had the Finance Minister there, the Minister of Transportation, the Minister of Colleges and Universities, and it really demonstrated how they also understand how those different portfolios were all impacted in that new deal for Ottawa. So really, it was a proud day for us to be able to showcase the Ottawa business community and the community at large. We did afterward, we did a tour of Samina out in Canada North. I know that they, did a photo op at Barnsdale as well. And so I think everyone needs to understand that all of us have our areas of focus for sure, but that we're all connected as well.
MVP Lisa McLeod joined us here last week. Very excited about Barnsdale and that new interchange, what it's going to mean for business in that community. I was driving down Barnsdale this week. I thought, you're about to change. Those pieces are really key. As much as we obviously want to be focused on the downtown, there's businesses all over this city.
There's businesses all over the city and all over this region. So, that Barnsdale interchange will be, impactful for the whole national capital region. And so it's an exciting time. And she's a real advocate for Ottawa, and so we're lucky to have her as a representative at Queen's Park.
You mentioned the City Building Summit coming up April 23rd. How can people get some more information about that?
So they can just go to our website, ottawabot.ca. Of course, our members get premium pricing, but everyone is welcome. So we expect to have a large and diverse representation from the community and the business community. We have some great speakers lined up and important topics to talk about. And then the other thing I would mention is that we're really excited about the idea of having some young leaders there as well. And so I encourage all of our members and the businesses that are signing up to come to invite a young person to come along with them and make sure that they're at the table understanding what's going on in this city as our future leaders, and then also an opportunity for us to integrate their perspective into our conversations.
I love that. The objective of that day, at the end of the day when you walk away from that event, what's the objective you're hoping to meet?
So I think the objective is to make sure that we calibrate what everybody thinks about what city building means. So it's about the infrastructure in the city for sure. It's about the people of the city. It's about things like nature and culture and the assets that we have and how we integrate those things together. And the day is really intended to bring in whatever the hot topics are as they pertain to shaping our city as we move forward. So the agenda this year will be around the downtown. It'll be around housing. It'll be around what some of those high impact projects are, like the new hospital. We'll talk a bit about the airport and all the exciting things that are going on there. Places like, developments like Zibi as well. So it's about, making sure that everybody understands all the great opportunities and strengths that we have, to have conversations and network with people who are interested in being involved in the future of the city.
We have a great show coming up today, obviously, as always. Erin Crowe is going to join us in a little bit, of course, CFO for the Ottawa Senators. Those conversations are really important as well as we think about downtown. I'm excited to hear from Erin today.
Yes, I am. I'm a big fan of Erin Crowe as a really dynamic female business leader in our community, and she's always had a really close relationship with the Board of Trade, and it's been maintained with her role at the Ottawa Senators as well. So
absolutely. I noticed the other day, as a member of the Ottawa Board of Trade, I noticed the other day lots of events coming up, and I think it's really nice that there's some in the morning for us early risers, like the Mayor's Breakfast, which is coming, of course, next week as well, and then you've got events after work and events on the weekend. You've really tried to make sure there's something for everyone.
Yes, so we have, as the voice of business and all business in Ottawa, of course, we have many different sectors we represent in size of business, entrepreneurs who are busy during the day, people who have time to come out early in the morning. So we do have a variety of opportunities for people to network, for them to hear about what's going on in the community, and for them to be involved in those conversations as well.
Yeah, for sure. Mayor's Breakfast coming up, the head of Porter. I think that is fantastic to have that type of person here as well, because of course aviation is so important in terms of the city.
Yeah, so transportation is very important to us. Our airport has undergone many challenges, and so we're really impressed with the way that they have bounced back after the pandemic, and how we continue to grow our direct routes, which is so important not just to our visitor economy, but also to business development. And so we're grateful to Porter for how they've invested in Ottawa, and we're looking forward to hearing more from them.
Wonderful. As always, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it very much. Sueling Ching, of course, she's the president and CEO of the Ottawa Board of Trade. When we come back, we have a representative from Hire Immigrants Ottawa. Stay with us on Ottawa Business Matters. We're going to talk about such an important subject today, and I'm so excited to welcome to the show Henry Akanko, and he is with Hire Immigrants Ottawa. Hello, how are you?
I'm doing very well, Sam, and yourself?
I'm so excited to have you here. Thanks so much for being here.
Well, a pleasure to be here.
When I think about Ottawa and the growth of Ottawa, we need lots of people to help us grow this city, and you're at the heart of this. First of all, tell us a little bit about Hire Immigrants Ottawa.
So Hire Immigrants Ottawa is a community-wide initiative of United Way East Ontario. And the work we do is to engage employers around immigrants' employment, looking at the demand side, the barriers and challenges employers have to effectively attract, hire, and integrate immigrants into the workforce. And this fits in with United Way's a focus area of from poverty to possibility, and this recognizes the importance of financial independence as a strategy to address poverty. And so this is part of the work we do around community wealth building.
It's incredible. And when I think about somebody arriving to Canada, and maybe they're arriving this time of year and they've missed the snow, but arriving to Canada and really not knowing anybody, not having any connections, it would be quite daunting for a family to do that. And then to think about, if they've got children, they're thinking about schooling and where to live, and then of course the work piece. And many people come to this country and they have incredible skills. How are we making sure there's a good match there for the work that we hope they do?
These are very important points you raise in terms of the journey one goes through to settle in a new country. And employment is a significant part of it. Most of the other pieces in terms of the settlement, we have a lot of initiatives on the ground to support people settle. But one of the pieces that has been missing for a very long time was who was asking a question from the employer side. What can we support employers to do more of to help shorten the integration time for individuals so they can get into work and meaningfully contribute to our society. So this is where our work comes in. We're the only initiative of its kind in this region that focuses exclusively on supporting employers to make sure that they are doing their bit and they have what it takes to support the integration of individuals. The good news is Ottawa continues to be a destination of choice for many immigrants. We are seeing our numbers grow. We are currently looking at about 2,000 permanent residents who are arriving in our city on a monthly basis. We welcomed 21,300 new permanent residents last year alone. And so that tells you that we're doing something right in terms of our profile around the world to attract people. But once people get here, it's important we make sure that they feel at home, they feel welcome, and they want to set roots here, because we don't want secondary migration happening when people are moving off to other places. But the work around integration is a process. Employers have a role to play in supporting their employees. They need to find the talent. They need to know where to look. And they need to also look at their HR policies and practices to make sure that the systems they had in place that worked very well for them 10 years ago are recalibrated such that they're working for them. We talk about inclusive economy. We want to make sure that everybody who has the ability to contribute is given an equal opportunity to be able to contribute. But all too often we see a lot of barriers come in the way of immigrants trying to get into the labor force. And these are some of the things we are trying to support employers to find ways to get around some of these barriers that they encounter, and to make sure that they're able to put our newcomer talent into good, productive use.
Because, I can only imagine from an employer's perspective, maybe you get, 15, 20 resumes, and you see a resume with incredible skills and experience, but maybe that experience took place in another part of the world. And really opening the door to somebody that could have wonderful experiences and really contribute here in this country.
That's very true. Unfortunately, we are not seeing many employers recognize the value of that international experience from another part of the world. So we talk about new perspectives, new ways of doing things, new ideas coming from other places. The biggest challenge that immigrants often face is employers asking for Canadian work experience. Somebody's got to give you the first job to have that Canadian work experience. But what we emphasize is look at the transferable skills. The focus should be on the skills, the experiences that somebody has doing the job that you are recruiting them for, and not where that experience was got. Even within Canadian organizations, every workplace has a different culture and has a different way of doing things. So when people move from one job to the other, there's always some period of time where you need to onboard them, you need to provide them some training to get them up to speed. It's the same thing with somebody coming from another country. But more importantly, they are bringing new perspectives. So let's begin to think about what is the value add they are bringing from another country. How do they solve a particular problem in another jurisdiction that we can learn from, rather than wanting the exact same old way we do things here? Then we lose the value of that international experience.
Mm-hmm, beautifully said. And when you do work with employers, you sometimes award them with recognition with the fact that they've embraced other people coming to this country and new Canadians. How important is it for you to have that strong relationship with employers?
Yeah, so we have an annual employers summit, and this year's was just last week that we held this summit. And as part of the summit is often a recognition of some workplaces that are leading the pack in terms of demonstrating exemplary practices in the way they attract, hire, and integrate immigrants into the workplace. So we have the Employer Excellence Awards. And the value of this is to do two things for us. One is to highlight the work that is being done, so that for those who are not convinced that there's a lot of value to doing this work and doing it well, to learn from others doing this, but also to encourage those who are already doing this work to continue to do it, because there's a lot of value to having a diverse workforce. And so we know through the Ottawa Business Growth Survey that the Boards of Trade carries out every year with Abacus data, employers highlight, access to skilled workforce as one of the top 3 challenges that they have. But we also know through that same survey, because the Board of Trade has been our partner, and they've understood the importance of immigration as a source of talent. And so they've added a few questions to engage their members' perceptions of immigration as a source of talent and for their own businesses. We do see the numbers are high. Local business see immigration as an important source of talent. But when we begin to probe further with those questions about whether they see this as a source of talent for their own businesses, we begin to see the numbers go down. Where people, businesses have hired an immigrant before, we see the numbers go up because they see the value, they see the work ethic, they see the innovation they bring, the different perspectives, they value having that diverse workforce. And so we see the numbers go up. So it's important that that story is told so that other businesses can learn from those who are already doing this work. And also, those best practices, people don't need to reinvent the wheel. If others have done it, it's documented, you can learn from that, run with it. So we are happy to disseminate some of this information, and we usually use our summit as a platform to be able to recognize employee excellence.
Brilliant. I love that. There's so much in that what you just said. I love that so much. And when you think about Ottawa, we obviously think about high tech, we think about the government piece, we think about healthcare, we think about retail, we think about, strong private sector. There's room for everybody here, right, Henry?
There is. We often describe the Ottawa economy from a labor market point of view as a knowledge-based economy because of the types of jobs we have here. As you described, the high tech, the government, we have big world-class hospitals, but we also have small businesses. And as our city grows, there's also the build part of our city that is happening. You look around and you see infrastructure going up. And so we need skill sets across board in different areas. So we need people to do that fiscal build. So we need skills trade. We need a knowledge-based people to power all those sectors of our economy that we have. But we also, through the work we do around community well building, recognize that we also have small businesses. And we need to support those small businesses. We know small and medium-sized enterprises are the engine of any economy. That's where most of the hiring happens. So if you take the Ottawa Boards of Trade's Buy Local campaign, that fits into our work in community wealth building about let's keep our money here. Let's make sure it circulates within the local economy a few times before it leaves so that we can create that multiply effect. If small businesses prosper, they create jobs, they hire local people, our economy improves and it grows. So we have a very diverse economy locally, and there are different facets, and these are all interconnected. The workforce development pieces related to the build work that is going on, related to the other facets. And for newcomers, when people have jobs, people can take care of themselves. Mm-hmm. There's no greater joy than being able to take care of yourself than wanting handouts from any level of government.
Yeah, beautifully said. We have 30 seconds. Tell us how someone can get in touch with you.
We can be reached through our website, highimmigrantsottawa.ca. We are located at 363 Coventry Road at United Way, East Ontario. Through the Ottawa Boards of Trades as well, they are a great partner. They collaborate with us on a number of initiatives. So if you're a member of the Board of Trades, you can connect us through that. And also follow us on our social media handles as well.
We'll do it for sure. Thank you so much, Henry. Appreciate your time.
Well, thanks very much for this opportunity.
Absolutely.
Henry Akanko joining us today from Hire Immigrants Ottawa. When we come back, Erin Crowe is going to be here from the Ottawa Senators. Stay with us on Ottawa Business Matters. Well, I'm so excited to introduce you to the one and only Erin Crowe from the Ottawa Senators. She's the COO
and the CFO. Hello.
Hello.
Those are big titles. I'm not going to. I'm not going to even sugarcoat it. That's a lot of work you've got going with that great hockey team.
Yes, it's actually a super fun role, I have to say. There's always something going on, and some days I feel like a jack of all trades and a master of none, and other days I feel the opposite. So
yeah, that's great. Yeah. Do you get a chance to actually watch any games, Erin?
I do.
Yes.
I do. I'm a fan for sure.
For sure. Now, listen, we were together a couple of weeks ago to the most beautiful gala in the city. The Ottawa Senators Community Foundation put on a stunning gala on the ice. I kept forgetting we were on the ice because it was so beautiful. But that night was not only great food and a great celebration, it was so much more than that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think, Jacqueline Balsito and the Senators Community Foundation have done an amazing job really bringing this foundation back to life over the last couple of years. The gala was really, I'd say, a culmination of all the work that's been done in that time, and really thrilled with the fact that we raised over $650,000, that there were 2 donations made to Roger Nielsen House and Maison Papillon in Gatineau, $1 million each, which is incredible for this city, right, and really meaningful.
Really meaningful, and of course Michael Andlauer, the principal owner, spoke beautifully about coming to Ottawa. They've really, both him and his wife, I really sense every time I hear them speak, just have really embraced the city, and we needed that, Erin.
Absolutely, and they're here in the city a lot. They've bought a house here. They're really passionate about Ottawa and about this team and about this team's success in Ottawa, right? And they understand, I think, what the Senators mean to the city, and they are really embracing that, right? And really trying to do what's always right for our fans and for the city. And I think that's an amazing way to think about new ownership and for them to come in and really get ingrained in this community.
Yeah, what a fantastic night. And I can't help but think too, when we think about business, we think about the potential of that arena heading downtown and what that will do for business downtown. You live and breathe and sleep this project. I know this. Tell me a little bit about what it would mean to you to sort of make that change.
Yeah, I mean, it is a transformational project for the city, right? And so I think it's something that means a lot to me. I think, one of the reasons I came back to the Senators in 2022 was because of what it means to the community. And this project means a lot to the community. And I think having an arena downtown is really a catalyst for some of the things that we need to do to drive that, the growth of our downtown, the revitalization. The mayor's talked about it, Sueling's talked about it. Everybody's talking about it, right? And this is huge. But it's a big project, and it's going to take time, and it's going to take patience, and it's going to take a belief that this really is something that matters to our city and our stakeholders. We need the support and that passion for this project as well.
There's some people, you're one of them, that makes leadership look easy. So you just the way you conduct yourself, the calmness, and I see it with Cyril Leader, to be honest, as well. Just a very humble, I'm going about my work, but these are transformational projects that you're working on. You were awarded CFO of the Year in 2022, which was an exciting time. But I know leadership isn't easy, so how do you make it look easier? And tell us your secrets.
Oh, that's a very good question. I'm glad I make it look easy. I don't always feel like it's easy, frankly. But I think, my approach to work and to life and to all the things I do is really just to do things that I enjoy doing, try and do the right things all the time, whether it's in the community, whether it's with the team at the Senators, whether it's at home, right? All of those things, do the right thing, lead by example, and just believe that you're going to accomplish what you need to accomplish with that in mind.
And being a woman in this, I'm hoping there's some day where we don't even have to say that, but being a woman in a C-suite that typically is men in sports, there's some barriers there. Do you feel like you broke through, or do you think you worked your way through them? And is it still a challenge, or is it a challenge at all?
Yeah, I mean, so it's an interesting question. Some days I absolutely feel like I've broken through, and other days I think, wow, nope, haven't broken through, right? So I think early in my career, I didn't pay any attention to that. I kind of worked, and I think was able to, just focus on getting my job done and using that as sort of my ability to grow. I think in more recent years, I've said, okay, wait a second, I can be a role model for women who are coming up and trying to be successful and working at being successful. And so I look at things now with that lens. And I think when I look at things with that lens, I still see that there are barriers, right? And I see that there are perhaps times where the perception is that you don't have that senior role, or but then there's also times where I think you can demonstrate that you have the knowledge, the capacity, the leadership skills to be in that senior role, and people accept you there. So it's all over the map, but I'd say we just have to keep pushing forward and keep believing that as we continue to support women in leadership roles, that growth will continue to come.
I really noticed at the mayor's breakfast how many women leaders were there, and of course Doug Ford, Premier, coming in announcing some very big things. But I do notice a lot of senior leadership. You have served on the Ottawa Board of Trade. You're still involved with them. How important is it that women are at those tables?
Oh, I think it's really important that women are at those tables, right? You've got to see those women in leadership positions. You've got to see those women influencing decisions that are made. We always talk about diversity around the table, right, and how much benefit that brings. So I think that's also important. I sit on a couple of other boards as well, the Briere Health Board, and I sit on the Center's Community Foundation Board. And again, diversity is something that we always have to be aware of because there are so many benefits it brings.
So to walk me through the day in the life of Erin Crowe. So, because I can only imagine, there's big decisions. I was thinking about you when the team ownership thing was happening. Is Erin getting any sleep?
No.
Exactly. There will answer that. No, there wasn't any sleep. But even now, like managing this project, because there's a lot of demands. A lot of people are looking to say, when is this happening and how is the decision being made? How do you manage your everyday?
Yeah, I think, I guess I kind of compartmentalize my everyday into the things that I need to get done that day, and then sort of the big rocks or the big projects that we've got to continue moving forward, but go at a much slower pace, and you kind of have to inch them forward, as opposed to, we are not going to make a decision on Arena tomorrow, but we've got to do 100 things in the background to keep that project moving forward. So it's just making sure for me, as I approach my day, thinking about the balance between what's today and what's tomorrow, and how do I make sure I'm moving both of those things at the same time.
Yeah, geez, it's like magician's work.
Yeah.
And the Ottawa Board of Trade, and I know you've obviously been close to them, but I would think, because I find every time somebody asks about the arena, then you also see Sueling give a comment, because she is representing the voice of business. So I see often that sort of dichotomy there where business is going to be affected. How key is it for you to be close to the Ottawa Board of Trade and hear from the members as well?
Oh, I think it's really important, right? When we talk about an arena, it has an impact on everybody in the city, right? Wherever you're from in this city, whether it's Ottawa, whether it's Gatineau, whether it's East, West, it doesn't matter, right? That would be a transformational project. And so staying close with the Board of Trade and their initiatives that they have around city building, downtown revitalization, I think they all tie in so tightly. Sueling and I see each other regularly, I would say, at different events, and also I sit on the Economic Development Committee at the Board of Trade. So certainly always being aware of what's happening and making sure that we're aligned as we think about the bigger projects in the city is important.
Mm-hmm. And I just find this city is just, speaking about transformational in terms of the arena, I find we're just transformational, whether it be transportation, the new hospital, it's a little bit scary for people, and sometimes people get negative, and I'm not up for negativity. So I'm very much like, this is a positive time, this is an exciting time, and then adding the arena into that mix, it adds even more excitement.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much going on in the city that is positive, right? To your point, the LRT is a transformational project. The hospital is a transformational project. These are life-changing, and when we talk about live, work, play, those impact that quality of life in Ottawa, and the arena will do the same thing. So these are, Ottawa has a lot going for it, and we don't maybe sell it enough to our community and our citizens, right? And
do you still get, like, even for myself, I go to maybe 6-10 games a year, but I still get kind of butterflies that we've got an NHL team here. Even after all these years, it never gets old to me to walk into the rink and see us playing, whether it be the Leafs or whether it be Columbus or whoever's playing. It's still an exciting thing to think a city of 1 million people have this. Do you still get the butterflies?
I do. It's funny, and you think about this team and this city, and you see the people that care so much about the team and the kids that care so much about the team, and they're growing up as Senators fans, and you walk around the city and you see people with their Senators gear on, and you just think, wow, people care, right? And this means a lot to the city, and we mean a lot to this city. So, and we've got an owner who's passionate about that too, as we talked about. So I think that's all just, it does make you emotional when you start to think about it.
Mm-hmm. And working with Michael Landlauer, I mean, you obviously you can tell that there's passion there. He's excited. He talked about that this was at the gala. He talked about this is a story that's being told here, and I got emotional when he said that, because you can see that he gets how all the pieces work together. I thought it was really special too that on the opening day he had Rod Brydon and Bruce Firestone and the Melnick girls there. I think that was a nod to what's happened, but also very much future thinking.
Absolutely right. I mean, we have a history. We don't want to forget our history. We've had great people and owners here. We now have Michael Landlauer here, and I really think the future is bright, right? We've got a team in place who believes, if you think of Michael, Steve Stais, Dave Poulin, they believe in the future of this team, and I believe in the vision they have for the future of this team. And you can't sort of turn a ship like 90 degrees overnight, but you really can continue to work on it. And the vision is there, and the passion is there, and the desire is there.
Beautifully said. I'm going to end our interview like I did with Cyril Leader. Go Sens go. Go Sens go. Thank you so much.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it. Thank you so much. Erin Crowe, of course, joining us today. She's the COO
and the CFO of the Ottawa Senators. When we come back, Roxanne Whiting is going to be here, and I know you're going to be here. Stay with us on Ottawa Business Matters. Well, I am so glad you are back on Ottawa Business Matters. I'm Sam LaPrade. I wanted to introduce you to a lady I'm getting to know today too, and that is Roxanne Whiting. Hi. How are you?
I'm well, thanks.
It's great to be here with you and talk about Asign. You are the co-founder and also with business development. So tell me a little bit about your role at this wonderful organization.
Sure. So I'm not one of the founders. I'm one of the co-owners. There's
Perfect.
two other women that I share the pleasure of owning Asign. And we've been around since 1997. So celebrating 27 years in June.
That's fantastic. So tell us what you do.
So my role is Director of Business Development. I'm also a practicing American Sign Language interpreter, and I've been doing that for the last 26 years. My role now is communicating, reaching out, networking, letting people know about our services, and also trying to bring more business into the company as well. But
Which
yeah.
is great.
Yeah.
So tell me how you got involved. Where did it all start for you?
Well, both of my parents are deaf, so my first language is American Sign Language, and then I learned English pretty much simultaneously because my grandmother used to watch me when I was a baby, so I was bilingual from birth, ASL and English. And then in high school, you start thinking about career options, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. My mother always said, you should be an interpreter. She worked for the federal government. She had interpreters that worked with her often. And I always, no, Mom, I don't want that. So I kind of took a gap year and was working some retail jobs, and one of my teachers from middle school actually had come into one of the stores I was working, and she said, Roxanne, why are you working here? And I said, income? And she said, but you know sign language, and we, you know, the federal government pays well, and it's a viable career option. So it got me thinking about that, and so fairly quickly after I did my research, and off I went and studied to become an interpreter.
I love those turning points in people's lives. And it's amazing how a minute can change your whole life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Would you do anything else?
No, looking back, it's the right fit for me, especially, you know, being a child of deaf adults. I didn't really understand that distinction until later, like as an adult, and then interacting more with the deaf community outside of my parents' bubble, so to speak. So interacting with other deaf people and professionals, and just really understanding that it's a culture and a community, and that I had a place in it as part of that culture. And then understanding that I have a privilege being able to hear, and kind of merging those two worlds together. So able to advocate for my peers and those that I know in the deaf community, but also being able to hear and enjoy things and understand things a little bit differently than the deaf community.
So who are the clients of Asign? Who's working with Asign?
So when we first were established, our primary work was based here in Ottawa with the federal government, the Ministry Attorney General, so the Ottawa Courthouse. Then it started growing to unions contacting us for large conferences, and so that's kind of what we specialized in. There are other organizations that provide and get funding from the Ministry of Health to do medical appointments, and that's not our main source of income or specialization. We really focus on business type of interpreting, conference level. We're across Canada now. Lots of things changed with disability legislation, but also with technology. So in 2014, the CRTC approved Video Relay Service, which is a telecommunications service for the deaf, which didn't replace, but was an upgrade from the old Bell Relay Service using a TTY, going through an operator third party. So now the third party still happens, but it's visual, over video with the sign language interpreter. So deaf Canadians are able to make telephone calls, to make an appointment, order a pizza, call work. And so we were awarded a contract through the Canadian Administrator of Video Relay Services in 2016, and that changed our business overnight, because as I said, from 1997 up until 2016, our focus was only Ottawa. We would be asked to go to other cities across Canada if there was a need, but once we started doing that, we needed more interpreters. So within a period of 3 years, I set up, along with my team, 3 call centers, one each year, in Edmonton, Halifax, and then Toronto, and then COVID came around. And prior to COVID, we were already venturing into video remote interpreting, which is everything other than a telephone call over video. So the CRTC has said that, you know, placing calls, you can't be in the same room and use the interpreter, because the funding is meant for telephone communication access. So a deaf person couldn't show up at the car dealer, for example, and call Video Relay Service to negotiate a deal on a car they want to purchase because of the funding parameters set out by the government. So video remote interpreting is something that it's fee for service, but you can use the interpreter in different places. So that's one of the services we're offering on demand. We're at all Service Canada, 344 locations, so deaf people don't have to make an appointment and wait 2 weeks for an interpreter to be available to apply for employment insurance, renew their passport. They simply walk in, connect with our interpreter, and go about their business. So we've been doing that now for the last couple of years, and we have other clients too, but so technology, anyway, there's lots.
I've learned so much. I had no idea. I think the average resident would have no clue.
Probably not.
Yeah,
No, unless you actually have firsthand experience or exposure to not being able to communicate with somebody, then you don't know. right? So part of my goal, my team's goal, is to educate and let the community know that there are services available, tools, interpreters, translation, which again, when we think about translation, we think about text-based content, word for word, English to French or other languages. In the deaf community, and to provide access, their first languages are ASL, which is American Sign Language, or LSQ, the Langue des Signes Québécois. So there's not one sign language across the world. For every spoken language, there's a signed language. So our translation takes text-based content and we interpret it, translate it into a video format that can be used on websites, social media posts, training training materials and so on. So, and that's also in addition to bringing an interpreter live on site, which we do as well.
Wow. And is it hard to find the talent to be interpreters? I would, that would be quite a skill set.
Absolutely, yeah. Not anybody can become an interpreter, and because of the Accessible Canada's Act and various provincial disability legislation, the federal government has put out some funding through Employment Services Development Canada, ESDC, an Opportunities Fund, and it's specifically focused on increasing the access to professional sign language interpreters, retaining and keeping and attracting new people into the field, as well as finding opportunities to have more deaf people trained to teach sign languages, amongst several things. So it's definitely an effort being made to increase the number of professional sign language interpreters because there's always a demand for our services. We used to joke many years ago, I'd say 20 years ago, summer, yeah, we could probably get a break, and Christmas time, we don't have those breaks anymore. It's very rare.
And I think often, and I'm even doing it when you were mentioning COVID, we think about interpretation when it comes to emergencies. We always saw the premier with an interpreter. We saw the prime minister with an interpreter, the mayor, that type of thing. But this is 365. I mean, this is not just in emergencies.
Absolutely. And I think it's going to take time, but interpreters should be part of everyday communication. So there should be an interpreter on this show, other shows, closed captioning is available, but what people don't realize is that English or French and other written languages is not the first language of deaf people. So their understanding is not going to be complete or comprehensive. So that's where having an interpreter or having the content translated is very important, and it's critical for people to understand and consume the information, because if they're reading it, there's going to be misunderstandings.
So if an entrepreneur is listening right now, a political representative, anybody in our community, what advice would you have to for them if they're maybe having an event or they're wanting to engage the deaf community? What advice would you give them today?
Well, as a first step, of course, you can reach us at Asign, and depending on your event or some of the objectives that you're trying to achieve, we can give you several different options. But communication and outreach to the deaf community through social media is critical. Deaf people are on social media. There used to be deaf clubs across the country, but with time, technology, things have changed, and COVID, lots of those deaf centers are not there anymore. So it's become more online communication. So in order to reach the deaf community, let them know that you're accessible is critical, because if you don't let them know, they won't come. So it's not a matter of just putting out your event and saying once, so we have interpreters. Like, you really need to make an effort to communicate that externally.
Yeah, brilliant. I can see why the Ottawa Board of Trade would be important to you, because you're working with all the stakeholders we just talked about. Talk about the relationship with the Ottawa Board of Trade.
Yeah, so it's new for us. We've been in Ottawa, like I said, for 27 years, but over time, we've evolved, we've grown, and it was time. Last year, we made the decision to join the Ottawa Board of Trade and really get out there and make sure that people were aware of who we are, what services that we offer, and just really making sure that access is possible. So opening more doors to possibilities for not only people in Ottawa, but across Canada to have access to interpretation and communication, because that's really what it is.
And you're really this lifeline, this life link for people. It's really just kind of hitting me now as we talk how important it is.
Well, if you think about it, deaf people, they're able-bodied people. They communicate in their own ways without interpreters, of course. Like, they don't need us for every single moment of their life, but there are critical parts in someone's life where you need an interpreter to communicate. So, you know, we kind of say A to Z, or, you know, from cradle to grave. I don't even like to say that, but you know, there's so many things that, so we're everywhere. We interpret everything and anything, from being in the courtroom to a kayaking course, or maybe I'm, you know, so you could be really anywhere.
Yeah. Really interesting line of work too.
Absolutely.
I've learned so much today. I love this.
Oh, good.
Where can we find you?
So Asign.ca is our website. You'll find our contact information there. You'll see some examples of what I mean by translating text-based content into sign language, because we have an avatar. We call it the floating translator, but it is a live interpreter that we've recorded that's translating the content on our website. So as you scroll on the website, the deaf community can get that live translation, and we have a English-French toggle button on their website, so you can see it in LSQ too. But certainly, yeah, Asign.ca, there's a contact us form, and
perfect.
we'd be
Well,
happy
thank
to
you
chat.
so much.
Thank you.
Roxanne Whiting joining us today, and she is the co-owner of Asign, also business development. It's been great spending time with you today on Ottawa Business Matters. I'm Sam LaPrade. Until next time.